wants to go first? Sorry. So I just have first a comment and then a couple questions. My first comment would be, we're a town kind of built on manufacturing. That means second shift. So it might be kind of beneficial to kind of maybe record or consider recording the meetings. It might also help with the note taking as well. So just something to think about.
Can I interrupt you for one
Yeah,
second?
sorry.
Please give your name.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I
That's
forgot
all
that.
right.
Emily Costanzo, Shippen Township, no affiliation, and I think that's it, right?
Yep.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess my first question is, I know there was talks of potentially looking into opening a daycare here at the school. If that does happen, just wondering, do we know if that will be open to the public or teachers only?
At this point, it is absolutely in its infancy and it's still being determined if that's going to happen. But it is my understanding that it would not just be for school employees only. It
And-
may start out that way, but like I said, there's things to be considered. And ultimately it has to be voted on by the board to even do that. But once we get things established and figured out, then it would potentially get open.
And it has, like, I'm assuming you guys have a lot of rooms, you guys had to put some new stuff in Woodland, so, would that replace us? Like, do we have room for that, really, right now, without removing anything?
Well, so there were some moves that happened over the summer. Some teachers had to get relocated to other rooms. Correct me if I misspeak anyway, Mr. Hoffman. But it did open up some areas that could potentially be used. They were originally going to be used for special ed. Correct? One of them is.
The other one is Title class.
Yes, so, yes, that's part of the thing that is being looked at right now is what moves need to be made and how they would be accommodated. The other thing they would need to look at, there's different guidelines that have to be followed for a daycare that are different from running a school. We would have to figure out how that they would get separated from even kindergarten or, the rest of the school because it would be a separate entity. So all things like that need to be considered.
And is that being looked at as like an employee benefit, or would they be paying for their childcare?
I would think that you have to pay for it.
Okay, okay. That's all on that. Am I allowed to ask another question that's separate from the first set, or do I have to?
No, you can
Okay.
ask.
So I'm not gonna say anything about like whether or not we should be doing the HVAC. That's neither here nor there, but I do have a little bit of concern on the decision-making process that led us to that. As was stated in the last board meeting last month, that there were no other alternative options considered by the board. I just recently spoke to Mrs. Rigo, and I don't know if you can speak to that or not, but just wondering if there were any alternative options considered before it was brought to the board.
Yes,
And if
there
you could
was.
elaborate on any of that.
So Mrs. Rigo can elaborate a little bit more, but this had been talked about probably for a year before it had even come to us. When Stephen Schneider was our maintenance supervisor before Jeff came to us, he and Ronna had identified some things that needed to be addressed in the school. And so once they started looking at it, they realized this is a bigger issue than what we thought. Who do we need to bring in here to look at? And so ironically, the companies that actually came and presented to us were actually here probably 8 months to a year beforehand, because they both came on site and looked at everything and said, these are what we recommend that you do, where you can save energy. And so then that list was brought to us after both of them had looked at it, and then we as a board went through and said, no, we can't do that now, and we whittled it down to what it became. And then as far as going through that process, then once we realized what the scope was that we wanted, it was put out in that system for anybody to come and make a proposal on. So as I've said before, because it was a Guaranteed Energy Savings Act, there's certain companies that are already vetted by the state.
Right.
They have the ability to see that and can present to us. But if you look at that list, several are from Michigan, Ohio, New York, outskirts of Pennsylvania, and, you know, where we're located, not everybody wants to come here. So then we ended up having the two that came in and presented that if this is what we want, this is what they would do. And after seeing that, Verigy and McClure was the better option of the two because they were a lot less expensive.
I actually just meant, like, how did you land on the Guaranteed Energy Savings Program when we're the only school out of like dozens that is actually not saving more in energy savings than we're spending, and that's kind of like the point of the program?
That's
So
not
I guess-
true.
I have the numbers here if you want them.
We are saving money.
Yeah, but not more than you're spending.
So I don't know that you were here one of the weeks when Eric was here talking, part of what, and we haven't chosen to do the lights yet, so I'm gonna use that as an example. But our cost of electric per kilowatt hour in this area is far less than our surrounding area. If you look at the rates, and I can attest to that, I camp in another county and I pay twice as much for my electric,
Right.
being over there less than half the time than I am here. But, so those other schools are seeing the way it's calculated, and that's what the Guaranteed Energy Savings Project allows you to do it. The state recognizes that the calculations that you use to say what your savings is basically avoiding, capital expenditures for those, and that goes into the calculation. So these other outlying areas that have higher costs than what we do, they're gonna show more savings.
So that's the only way to have those energy savings, is you couldn't use the same, like, you couldn't do the same thing outside of that program and still save that money. Have those energy efficient savings.
What's that? Ours is just as high.
Yeah, so the numbers that you're comparing on that little.
From McClure?
Yeah.
Yes,
correct.
the presentation.
Yeah.
So there was a comparison at the end about all of the different schools. that
Yeah, there's like dozens out there, yeah.
Yeah, so that number is a different calculation than the number in the earlier part that tells us what we're saving. So when you look at those numbers about what the schools save, that, you have that,
Yeah,
what
she's
they
looking.
save by doing the project now.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to like rehash this whole thing. I'm just wanting to make sure that like we're crossing T's and dotting I's on all of our decisions, especially like multi-million ones. That's all I just, because the only thing that raised that flag was no other decision or no alternative were considered.
No,
That
and
kind of was
they
like,
were,
okay,
so
wait a
maybe
minute.
that was,
Yeah,
maybe that was
a misspeak, I think,
misspoken,
yeah.
but we did consider other things before we got to that point.
Right, okay.
But if we look at the contract that is now available to the public, and I can't remember what page it's on, Jim.
Oh, that is
Remember
available, is that on the school board site?
Huh?
Is it, you said it's
It's
available?
not on the school board site, but you
Request.
can get it, request it and get it, yes.
Perfect.
47?
Is it 47?
47 in the contract?
I think, hold on, let me find it here. There's actually a page in here, it's not 47, that compares, if we had gone with outside entities
Okay.
to do the same work, I don't have the number right in front of me, but I
But it
think it
is.
was something like $1.1 million more it would
Okay.
cost us. to do
And
the
I
same thing.
appreciate that, because I think that transparency really helps put this in
Okay,
perspective, so,
that's-
thank you.
That's the comparison. When we look at this and we look at these, and you're comparing the case study, it's saying that over 20 years, Ridgeway saved $15 million. Over 20 years, Powdersport saved $11 million. That $11 million is the capital,
Avoidance.
the avoidance capital outlays.
So right now in ours, in this contract,
For the
based
new
on
one.
what we approved at
Just the
at
elementary
the
school.
last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, we will, right? So,
That's the avoided capital outlay.
Which is a lot different than the initial.
It is.
Which helps, like I said,
Yes.
again, to put things into
Yes,
a better
and then
perspective,
also-
so I do appreciate that.
again, I wanna say that the comparison was made in here, if we had gone with outside entities where we would've had to get an engineer, a project manager, and an architect and pay those additional costs that aren't already established through McClure, that would've been a $1.1 million additional cost to what we're already gonna pay. Okay,
Yes, that helps
Does
with
that help?
clarification, very much, thank you.
you're welcome.
And that's
Thank
all
you
I
for
have.
your
Thanks.
question. Anybody else? Mr. Harbaugh?
As far as shipping township, I had a couple of questions about, your policy 122, the extracurricular policy.
Okay.
Me and Ms. Rebo had spoken by email, and I'm a little bit confused on some parts of it, and some parts of it I understand. Had you participated last year with something with, Doc Mackin up inside Bill State Park, with the little group she put together last year, nothing to do with the school really. Had you approached her earlier at a football game and asked her if she would be able to participate in that? She's not a student here anymore, she's a cyber charter student. Doc
Was she a
said
student last year?
Last year, no, she was in it as a student. This
Okay.
year, she approached Doc at a football game and asked if she would be able to participate in it. Doc said she didn't know, but she would check into it and see and get back to her.
Wait a minute, was she assigned to school last year or did she?
This year.
Just this year, not last year.
Last year, she would have been a student
Okay.
in it this year. Doc got back to hold of her on Monday and said, yes, that would be no problem for you to participate in this. We practice, and during activity period and ARE on Wednesdays. She gave her a time slot to come to school. She went to the school that day, signed in the office, no problems, went, and she was allowed to participate. Later that day then, my wife was called and said, hey, she can't participate in that.
Okay.
I mean, to me, it looks like an extracurricular. I mean, it checks all the blocks that I can see for being an extracurricular. So I'm curious as to why, I'm not sure what block's not being checked that is being denied.
Do you wanna speak to that?
So extracurricular are the activities that occur outside of the school day. And the activity period is part of our academic calendar, and it's part of our hours that are calculated for academic hours that count for the school day. So those are all academic. All of our activity periods are associated with a course or a department. And that is an extension of our curriculum. So they are kind of co-curricular, of course, not an extracurricular. And so that is the criteria by which it did not meet the criteria for extracurricular.
So, I'm just pulling up the policy because, forgive me, I don't know.
The policy
off the
says
top
wholly
of
or
my head.
partly conducted outside the school, so it's not saying, hey, it has to be all done completely outside the school. There's no actual academics going on in that time frame except for remedial, which is clubs, which are
It's
listed at.
activity, so all of the different teachers that have courses can bring the students together to, enrich the curriculum. So we have the Spanish teacher brings together a group of students that work on higher level Spanish. They might plan activities that they can go to enhance their learning. We have an intramural gym associated curriculum that our gym teacher expands on. If they're learning skills in pickleball, then that is what they will work on during that time. So the kids that like to enrich their learning in that will participate in that activity day. The art teacher will have a component where she will have students that are wanting enrichment in that area. So it is part of our academic school day.
If I look at the definition, it says, for purposes of this policy, extracurricular activities shall be those programs that are sponsored or approved by the board and are ungraded and do not qualify for academic credit. Now, I'm just gonna ask, because band is a scheduled class, it's a graded class, it's been that way forever. So is what they're doing at Sizerville part of what band is expected to do as a scheduled course?
No, it falls outside of that. I
No,
have
some
a
of
copy
the
of
kids,
that.
some of the kids is like an ensemble of the band. The band, all of the kids that are in the activity period are members of the marching band class. So they are part of that. Not all of the band participates in the activities, period, band. But all of the kids that participate in the activity day on Wednesdays are part of the band.
Is there a written requirement that says they have to be part of the band? If there was another student in the school that says, hey, I can play a flute pretty good, I wanna be part of that, would they be excluded?
I don't know that. All I know is all of the kids are.
I mean, I know, I understand that you're probably not gonna have that come up very often, but
I can see where there's some confusion on this. I think we can look into it a little bit more, or.
Well, it's part of the school day. I mean, if we open it up to students that are not enrolled in our school, we have to open it up to all students, like our Elkhorn Catholic students or other charter schools for other classes and other activities that are happening. So that's a board decision if they want to change the policy to allow students to come in during the school day.
if it's occurring during that period, though, what's it hurt? I mean, they're not interfering with band class per se. That has its own scheduled time.
If they went through the private school that we have, they would be.
Yeah, we have two different options. We have Virtual Academy through Waterfront and we have Rocket Online. These are two different types of platforms that parents can choose and students can choose to be on. And those students are 100% included and welcome as it. No different than the students enrolled in the district who might want to take a class that is not offered through that, or they feel that, say for instance, calculus, they feel that they can't learn online as well, the option would be to come in here. In addition to that, we assist students who are part of our district if they need to come in for remediation. So they are welcome to come in and they can participate in all of our homecoming dances and things like that, because they're part of the district. So that would be the difference between the.
That's an advantage if you went to one of our schools, you can come here, maybe, versus some schools.
Can I ask, is she participating in one of our?
No.
No, okay.
I mean, it leaves me with more questions than I guess, because, Christy Bennett had told me just the other day, and Emma didn't go to school here during COVID for the 1 year, and she was allowed to participate in music lessons.
That was before you were superintendent.
Yeah, that